Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and all the other reindeers do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Then one sunny Christmas Eve, la-li-la-la-la, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, would you guard my sleigh tonight? Hello, this is Sophie Lawson from sophielawson. Crunchy. The crunch means it's time for another walk and talk, and this is episode 193 of the Sophie Art podcast, which is a little podcast that I do about the art and things. lilDENNiS isn't with us today, but it's absolutely freezing out here, and I think this will only be a little one today. I've got a very interesting topic. I've also got a bit of an apple stuck in my throat. You know, like, can you hear the noises? It's weird, isn't it? There's lots of seagulls out here today. So if you're watching on YouTube at youtube.com/SophieLawson, you'll be able to see the little seagulls and stuff. Seagulls are quite strange because the children ones, like the grey ones, they look very cute. When they get older, they suddenly look, most of them look a bit evil. Even though I love them, they've just got this essence of naughtiness about them. But today's podcast is going to be all about crop circles, and it's going to be about crop circles. Something I've just thought about, like I think it was last week, to do with water and vibrations, and also dimensions. So I've not really looked into crop circles before, but I always thought they were man-made. I always thought they were just things that, like, pranksters. But last week, this thing popped up on YouTube, which me and my mum watched, and it was all about, I could try and put the link in the show notes, but it was a video which somebody had recorded it off a TV, I think, and it looked like it was quite an old documentary, like about 10 years or something. And what had happened was, it was all about UFOs that the military had seen, but the second half of it was about these crop circles. So what happened was, it was a story really about this old bloke, who every morning took his dog for a walk, and he would walk through like a little field. He basically lived in the middle of nowhere. I think he lived in somewhere in England, in the middle of nowhere. And what he did was, he walked across this field every morning, so he knew it like the back of his hand. One morning he's walking across there, and he saw what looked like lights, like little orbs or something. And well, this gets very strange. So what he said he saw was, he started to see like the shadows of the trees were not behaving properly, almost as if something was changing the way shadows were working. They were basically, he said there was these two trees, and they were, one shadow was going one way, the other was going the other way. Very strange. But what he said he saw was, he saw a crop circle just form he saw it like a line go right across the field, as if by magic. Now this other bloke comes on who's like a researcher, and he started talking, and he said about people who have seen these crop circles forming, they've just popped out of nowhere. And what the first thing I thought when I heard that was, about a few years ago I watched this thing on YouTube by, I think it was Carl Sagan. Again, I'll try and put a link in the show notes and everything. But Carl Sagan was talking about what it would be like for a third. What would it be like for a two-dimensional being to have a 3D object come into their dimension? So, because we're third-dimensional beings, if there is, like, say, something above us, which is a higher, like a fifth-dimensional thing, we wouldn't see it. Well, we might see it, but we wouldn't see it the way it really is. We would only see it as a third-dimensional thing. So what the example Carl Sagan gave was, imagine you've got this little two-dimensional being, like it's on a flat sheet of paper, and you've got like a sphere, which is the third-dimensional thing. If that third-dimensional object interacted with the sheet of paper, as it went through the sheet of paper, the two-dimensional being would only see a circle. So what it would see is, it would see a little circle as the sphere interacted with the 2D piece of paper. It would then see a bigger, as the sphere moved down through the paper, it would see a bigger circle until it started to get small again. So basically it would see something pop in and pop out. That's the first thing I thought was, hang on, what if these crop circles are basically other dimensional objects interacting with us? But also, you think about it, like the wind. So the wind blows. How do we know the wind is blowing? We only know the wind is blowing because we see trees moving, and we feel the wind on our skin, or we hear the wind. The thing is, if we didn't have those three senses, you wouldn't even know that the wind was there. So what it is, what if there's a sense that we haven't got, which is stopping us from seeing these, like, say, whatever these crop circles are being created by. So but we've got the sense of vision, which allows us to see the crop circle. So it's almost like, it would almost be like somebody who is blind. They can still feel and hear the wind, they just can't see it. What if that's what's happening with us? So that was the first thing I thought about. Hey, little squirrel here. I like little squirrels. They like apples. They normally eat apples when I give them apples. Yeah, they like little apples, they do. I like watching them munching on things as well. They're cool, they are, squirrels. They're probably quite angry at the minute. So that's the first thing I thought. Was, what if I've got a feeling these crop circles are linked with other dimensions. So I'm going to start, like, sort of doing some research into these crop circles, because I always thought they were just people playing around. But the thing is, on that documentary, they even talk about that. They say what happened was the government, or no, not the, well, maybe somebody basically went around creating all these pretend ones to confuse the matters. So in other words, all the fake ones have sort of cluttered and belittled, I suppose, the real ones. But this is why that reporter was so good, the investigator, because he's got all the knowledge and stuff. And he basically said like some of these are actually just unexplained things. So the other thing, well, there's two things here. One is, the other day me and my mum saw something in the sky. I've got to try and remember that. But I want to also say, you must have heard about this bloke who, what he does was, he got like pots of water and stuff, and I think he froze the water. He would talk to the water, and he'd say like love things, freeze the water, and what would happen is the water would have, the structure of the water would form shapes. So if he sent loving vibes, the molecules of the water create these like beautiful shapes, geometric shapes. If he sent negative vibes, the water got all sort of just like chaotic, really, not structured at all. And it worked not just with actual physical words, but with thoughts. And even if you wrote words on pieces of paper and stuck them to the side of the thing. There's another bloke who did it with plants as well. So what that means is there's some sort of hidden vibrations and frequencies that we can't see, but we can actually see the results of them if we're paying attention. So again, what it does to me is, I've got this singing bowl at home, and somebody, I think it's Dan on the podcast, on the Ascend podcast, he said if you put water in that thing and play it, because what you do is you put this, you're like spinning the bowl, you got like a little drumstick really, and you basically rotate the drumstick around the bowl. It creates like it goes a vibe like that. But if there's water in the bowl, the water will start forming shapes. What it says is vibrations can create, the vibrations are creating shapes. So, and because we're made of water, think about all these vibrations and frequencies that we're being bombarded with. They could be actually changing the molecules, our actual the water that we are. So if we've got, imagine if all our molecules are going crazy, it's probably like coming out to us to make us feel crazy. But if it's all loving things going in there, that's when you're probably more in balance. But so what I started thinking was, what if these crop circles are some sort of vibration which is forming the crop circles, like the shapes. Also goes into what he was talking about, because he said about after the crop circles have like been created, this investigator bloke, what they notice is that time changes. I think it was that when he said that what they did was they put a clock in the middle of the crop circle. Right, they had these two clocks or watches or something, both exactly the same. They put one in the middle of the crop circle, they took another one somewhere else. When they brought them back together, one in the crop circle was different, the time was different, almost as if the actual energy of that crop circle was now changing the time. But what he was also talking about was how, well, like the shadows on those trees. The shadows on the trees were being manipulated by the crop circle. Also, this was quite interesting. The roots, this is how they can tell the difference between fake ones and real ones. On the real ones, or the unexplained ones, what happens is the roots of the like the corn or the grass or whatever, the roots are actually like instead of going straight down like they should do, the roots end up getting flipped horizontally. So instead of coming down vertically, they go horizontally, like instantly. And he's basically saying that you can't explain that. So again, what if there's some sort of vibration going on? Now it might be the same thing. You might have like a fifth dimensional entity, spaceship, or energy. It might just be an energy in a fifth dimension, which is overlapping with this dimension that we're in. And what it's doing is it's creating the shapes of the crop circles, but it's also putting out like vibration. So as the circle is going through our dimension, it's got like a vibration going with it, which is changing all the grass and manipulating the time and stuff. It's mad, but the thing is, it all makes sense. Like, well, it goes back to that thing a few weeks ago. I did a podcast about the lost history of the Earth. One of the things they said was all these like buildings, like the cathedrals and stuff, they were really they weren't created by us, basically. We took them over in the 1800s, and we've pretended that they were ours, but they wasn't. And what he's talking about was on there, he was talking about how, like, all these cathedrals are basically, they're all about channeling energy and using water, basically like free energy and stuff like that. But when you look at that, a lot of the stuff he's talking in there, a lot of stuff he was talking about in that documentary about how the ancient civilizations were actually using water as like a free energy, again because we're made up of water, or a lot of the things he was talking about, it seems to be very similar to these, what they called crop circles, but it's almost like the other way around. So the cathedrals and stuff like that is inside the system. So in other words, all the stuff he's talking about, like harnessing the energy from the ether via these cathedrals and towers and stuff, we can see that because we're here. But what we can't see at the moment is we can't see what the energy would be like, because they've deactivated all of these cathedrals and stuff. But then these crop circles are like the other way round. So with the crop circles, with the crop circles, we're seeing, there's a doggy down here chasing the squirrels. With the crop circles, we're seeing the end result. That's it. The cathedrals, when you're looking at a cathedral, like with the, hey, that's weird, there's one in the distance. How weird's that? So when you're looking at the cathedrals with like the pointy bits at the top, and there would normally be a bell in there, so what would happen is the cathedral would pull the energy from the ether, take the energy in, they would then ring the bells inside of these cathedrals and stuff, and that would send out vibrations around the earth, which they would use for healing and stuff like that. So when we look at those cathedrals, that's us looking at the device that would be used. Whereas when we look at the crop circles, we're looking at an end result of something that's using the energy of the ether. Do you see what I mean? I think I understand it. There's loads of squirrels around here today, eating their peanuts. I think you want to split an apple. Give them a bit of apple. There is it. Hey, come on in. Right. It's quite cool, isn't it? Yeah, there's another one there, look. If you watch on YouTube. Oh, he's gone. Peanuts.com. Yeah, you doing alright? I'm good, thanks. You doing alright?
You warm enough?
Yeah, just. It's the hands, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gets mad. Yeah. I was thinking they must be hungry.
Sorry?
I was thinking they must be hungry.
Yeah. Oh, they're always hungry.
Yeah.
And we take them to bed.
Yeah. Yeah. See you later. Bye. Oh, that's cool. I see those two people every day in this park. How cool is that? I think that's it for this one. So basically, my sort of thingy-majig is, I think there's something to these crop circles. I really do. I think there's something to these crop circles. Ah, I nearly forgot, didn't I? So the other day, it must have been about 8 o'clock at night, me and my mum, we were outside, we went for a walk. That was it, yeah. We just went for a random walk. So we were walking around the block. It was very dark and very clear in the sky. So I looked up, you could see the stars and stuff. You could also see a big yellowy orange, let's say, dot. At first I thought it was a star, but it was probably about 5 times, 6 times the size of a star. So it was very big, but actually I thought it was, at first I thought it was a plane. I thought it was like a plane or a helicopter. I thought it was a helicopter because it wasn't moving. So I said, that's a bit weird, isn't it? So we both looked at it, and we both thought it's a bit weird. So we just stood there looking at it. So I'm staring at it, and it was actually like hovering. So I kept looking at the other stars, and they were static. This object was very slightly like bobbing, almost as if, you know, like when you've got something in the water, like you put a ball in the water, and it's like bobbing up and down. It was like that, very subtle. You couldn't really see it unless you really looked at it. My mum said, "Oh, it's a shame you haven't got your camera." But because I didn't have my camcorder with me. But so we kept looking at it. All of a sudden, it gets really bright. It gets really bright and probably about, I don't know, 2 times bigger. And all of a sudden, it disappears. And well, we just stood there like, what's going on here? And I couldn't stop looking at it. I was like trying to find it because I thought it must have gone behind the clouds or something. But you couldn't. It just disappeared. Now, no, I'm not saying it's an alien. But what I'm thinking is, again, you sort of think a lot. It's an orb, some sort of orb, which popped in and popped out. So again, that could have been like another object coming in and out of our dimension. It's very weird, but the thing is, when you see something like that, you can tell when you're looking at something that isn't quite normal, because it's got a vibe about it, I suppose. I just wanted to show that, and I think the main thing I take away from that is keep looking up. keep looking up because there's stuff up there. And the thing is, I reckon most of the time people are totally oblivious to what's going on above their heads, me and myself as well. Because when you start looking up, you realise that there's stuff going on up there. And what I've noticed is a lot of these, let's say, phenomenons and spaceships and whatnot, they're silent. So you're not going to hear them. So I'll just say get into the habit of looking up. I think that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed that. It's just a little thing about, hey, there's that thing that we were looking at. It's the bombed out church. Yeah, in Plymouth we've got this bombed out church. That's what the thing was. So basically you've got like a big, what do you call it? Oh, there's a bird up there, I think there's a bird sitting on the top of it. How cool is that? That's the thing with birds, they can do whatever they want. So you've got like this orb thing at the top, comes down like a spot, what's it called? A chimney, massive chimney. And then you've got these big windows, I suppose. That's it. Cool. So, but what he was saying on that documentary, he was saying about like when you look at things like that, they're more sort of like they're not just structures, they're sort of what's the word? Or like, almost like well, like, you know how we've got electronic devices. Basically he was saying that those things there are sort of like machinery put inside of beautiful structures. It certainly makes you look at things differently. But that's it for this one. All that's left is this week's inspirational quote. And I thought one earlier, which I like this. Hey, little seagull. Da-da-da. So my little quote for this week is, do today what others won't, so you can do tomorrow what others can't. Bye bye. Hello. Cool, isn't he? Just sitting there, posing. Wonder what he's thinking. So I'm thinking, what are you doing? Huh, it's quite cool, isn't it? I love the shapes of birds. He's quite happy up there.